Welcome to the second video in the NextE90 project. Now today, we'll be replacing the charge pipe and intake in preparation for higher boost levels when we install our JB4 in the next episode. Now I'm not really expecting any performance gains with this intake alone, but I am looking forward to hearing the sound of the turbos more. We will be installing both the charge pipe and intake sold by Berger Motorsports. Now much of the items that we removed from the engine bay when we redid the spark plugs in our last episode also need to be removed in this one. So much of this will be familiar to you if you've already done that process. Now, to do this, you're going to want to first remove the 6 8mm bolts from these locations, which allows you to remove the cowl covering the HVAC system. Now, with the AC ducts exposed, we can install the Berger Motorsports cowl filters so that we can leave this piece off that we've just removed. Now, over time, it's become very brittle and many of the tabs have broken off. So this allows us to maintain easier access to the engine while still maintaining the filters. We finish screwing in these filters into the stock locations using the OEM screws, and we can move on to the next part. We next want to remove these two plastic caps on each side that are simply released by pulling up on the clips on each side. These will expose two additional 8mm bolts to remove from the left and right that will release the cowl that is above the engine. Now before it's removed, you will want to remove the harness from the left and right sensors on that cowl, as well as pull up on the plastic bar as you see me doing here, and then using a straight edge to pop all three of these clamps from holding that harness wire in place. Once you pull the harness wire out, you are free to remove the entire remaining plastic cowl piece. We now have access to the full engine. From here, I choose to remove the 4 bolts holding the engine cover on, 2 in the front and 2 in the back, which can be secured with a variety of bolts. In my case, they're 10mm. Now for some reason my engine cover only had spots for 3 screws, but it looks like most will have 4. Note this part isn't entirely necessary, but I find that it makes the removal of the stock airbox a bit easier. Now once the engine cover is removed, we can turn our attention to the stock airbox. We want to start by squeezing this connection here and pulling up to release this hose from the airbox, and we next use a T20 Torx bit to remove the screws from the factory cold air scoop. We then detach the snorkel and slide it away from the airbox. We now need to loosen the hose clamps on both inlets. Once loosened, you should be able to pull up on the entire airbox and pull it out towards you. Once it's out, you will have access to install the new intakes. But first, this gives us access to the charge pipe area, so we will want to change that first. Now the picture here shows the stock charge pipe. To remove it, we need to turn the gray dials and pull up to release it from the stock charge pipe in these 2 areas. We then need to loosen the hose clamp here near the front and pull this clamp that you see here entirely straight out. We then just need a large Torx bit to unscrew this bolt. The last thing we want to do is reach back here and remove the 2 screws holding the sensor in. This is one of the harder to get to parts for this mod, so make sure you take your time as the sensor is actually fairly recessed into the current charge pipe. Once removed, you now need to pull it up and out of the engine bay. We now need to attach the hose clamps and hoses to our new charge pipe and use them to attach all of our old connections. Then screw in our sensor with those 2 hard to get to screws before we work the pipe back into place. Now getting this pipe exactly into place can be easily the most challenging part of this mod, so take your time and keep working it slowly into place until it snaps into locations on both ends. We then need to tighten all of our hose clamps, and the charge pipe has been installed. We now install our new intakes directly into the exposed inlets and secures our hose clamps on each side to finish their install. We now just need to reattach the hose that we detached in front of the intake and reinstall your OEM cold air intake to continually feed cold air to these intakes. We then finish by reinstalling the engine cover, the rear cowl with plastic coverings, and then everything is back together. Now as expected, this didn't really make any change to my quarter-mile time, with my best run still being in that 5.4 to 5.5, 0 to 60 range, and a 13.6 to 13.7 quarter-mile time. Now we are now set to install our JB4 in our next episode, and I can't wait to see the performance gains when we do so. Now if you'd like to follow my progress, please make sure to click the subscribe button under the video and the bell icon next to it to be notified when my future videos are released. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time. Stay safe and stay healthy out there.